Welcome to, well, I guess this is an after the season Citizen NFL podcast.
Indeed.
I'm Justin Ritzel, your host, joined once again, hope you're not sick of them yet, by Robert Harding and Chris Sciria.
I know that the lovely listeners out there aren't sick of me. That much I do know.
They're not sick of me, man. They love me.
The $1.66
he's going to keep doing it again. Yeah.
Can't get enough of it.
It's not my fault that it was only $1.66. You know, there weren't as many smart people playing, then I would have won more.
Sure.
But
anyway.
We'll take it. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Chris, you're talking about this recent question you had. You care to share it with all the listeners?
Well, on HQ Trivia, they just had a question, like, what quarterback after Tom Brady has the most playoff wins? And
give them the options.
And there was Joe Montana, John Elway, and Peyton Manning. And the correct answer was Joe Montana with 16 playoff wins. Tom Brady's got like 26 or something. So
27, but who's counting?
27, 28. Who cares? He didn't get one on Sunday,
He certainly
though.
doesn't have 28.
He didn't get it on Sunday.
Am I right?
Yeah.
So, you guys both picked the Eagles.
Indeed.
I did not. But the Eagles won in kind of a way that you guys, like Chris, you were saying how the Eagles need to run the ball, and I mean they had success running the ball, but it wasn't as if they were killing clock. Like they were going for it. So I mean, and you've been saying how much you appreciate Doug Peterson, but his aggressiveness really impressive.
Oh, it was, and I mean Robert and I were getting into it on Twitter on Sunday night because.
Damn right.
I said this is where the Eagles need to run the ball more in the fourth quarter, the beginning of the fourth quarter, because they were averaging at that time 7.5 yards a carry. I mean, they were really the Patriots had a bad run defense at the beginning. I believe the Patriots were ranked 30th in run defense in the regular season. So I'm thinking like, well, this is where you take a page out of Atlanta's screw up last year and you run the football because it's successful and you're running clock. But the Eagles didn't do that. They continued to throw the ball. And they went for it on 4th and 1, where they went to Zach Ertz. And I said...
And that was on their own side of the field, right?
And that was on about almost midfield. But basically their own side of the field. And that was a huge, huge play. So they outplayed New England. They outcoached New England. And it was a great game. And, Robert and I, we made the right choices in our selections.
Indeed we did.
Well, thanks for joining me on the Eagles bandwagon. I'll remind you guys, I was the one who picked them to win that division. That's right. I'll tell you guys, so I watched the game at Eddie O'Brien's in Geneva. Not sure how many people are familiar with that, but it was an interesting crowd because, you got a good chunk of people there that really, they're not rooting for either team. They're, I wouldn't say indifferent, but they don't really have a dog in the fight. And then a good amount of Eagles fans and a good amount of Patriots fans. And I have to admit, every time the Eagles made a play or got a touchdown, yeah, you bet I was singing that song. Yeah. Jumping up, doing some fist pumps.
It's a great song. I mean, it's just one of those things that, like, I never really knew about it until recently. You know what I mean? It's not like you watch a lot of Eagles games or, but, I mean, everybody knows the song with the Redskins, Hail to the Redskins, Fight for Old D.C. And, of course, the Bills have Shout, which they ripped off from Animal House. No, I know, they didn't really rip it off, but
the unoriginal Bills.
The Dolphins have their song, and so that was pretty cool to be able to really get into that, and that was just a really good football game. I mean, from beginning to finish, seriously. I mean, the first drive, the Patriots go down. I'm sorry, the Eagles go down and get a field goal, and then the Patriots go down and they get a field goal, and you're like, well, the defenses seem to be like a little off so far, but they're holding down in the red zone, and then all of a sudden the game just exploded. It was just a really fun game. It had a little bit of everything in it, and people can't complain that the officials were favoring the Patriots, because that wasn't the case. I don't think it was. But it was just a really fun. It was a fun football game. It went down to the last play. You can't ask for anything more than that.
I think we'll get to it in a few minutes, but I'll just throw this note in here. I had no issue with any of the calls. I actually thought the refs did a really good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert, you said last year after the Patriots' overtime win against the Falcons that was the best Super Bowl game of all time.
Indeed, I did.
I disagreed with you.
Right.
But
I remember this now, yeah.
Does this top it for you?
In a lot of ways it does, just because of the back and forth nature. One knock I think against the game last year was that it was one-sided, for the Falcons for most of the game, and then really one-sided for the Patriots in the fourth quarter and overtime. So, because of the comeback and all, but this game, like Chris was saying, it was a shootout. It went back and forth. No one really had a stranglehold on the game at any point. Then the Eagles kind of were, keeping the Patriots at arm's length, and then the Patriots, had their little surge, and then the Eagles came back and won it at the end. But this is up there just with not only how the game played out, but some of the decisions that were made and some of the plays that were made. The Alshon Jeffrey catch was incredible. Corey Clement's catch was also incredible. Zach Ertz, given Chris Collinsworth's ridiculous obsession over the process and all this other crap. That play was great. And the way Tom Brady played. He played like the NFL MVP. Unfortunately, his defense played like it was being coached by, Greg Williams or something. But, that was it for the Patriots. So it was a great game from throughout. And I will say, I believe it did top last year's game.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. Yeah.
I think that my argument last year against your case that Patriots Falcons was the greatest Super Bowl is, I think it was not a good game for really through midway through the third quarter. It was the Falcons were well in control. It was going to be a blowout. Was it one of the most thrilling finishes in a Super Bowl ever? Yeah, of course. But I'll take a game where the teams are just trading blows for 60 minutes, that's kind of, in my opinion, which I would still say is the best Super Bowl I have ever seen. But Seahawks Patriots in 2014 is personally my favorite, because it just felt like not only do you have really the two best teams, but each play there were the Patriots had a little bit of a comeback in that game too, but it never felt like it wasn't always up for grabs. Mm-hmm. And that's how this game felt too, even though the Eagles had a chance to kind of pull away at one point. The Patriots were never really out of striking distance. Kind of was saying, better keep your foot on the gas pedal, Eagles, because you just saw what happened last year, and for the most part they did. Now after the Eagles, they take the lead. I believe they went up by 5 on the Ertz touchdown.
Right.
Brady gets the ball back with about 2:20, 2:30 left in the game. If the Patriots go down and score there, they take the lead. You guys are thinking what I'm thinking, right? That the Patriots are going to win this game.
Yeah, because they weren't going to leave much. Look, Bill Belichick is not going to leave a lot of time on the clock. The Eagles would have had to use their timeouts. Yeah, so who knows what would have happened there.
Well, and the fact that being a Bills fan, we've seen that before. Even though a lot of the Patriots games in the Brady era haven't been close with the Bills, but when they have been, those times when there's a game in 2011 that the Bills did win, and Brady threw a pick, I think, on their final drive, but you had that feeling, you're like, oh, we've seen this before, it's over, the Bills are done for. So it was surprising to see what transpired on that drive because yeah, I mean, once they got the ball back, enough time for Tom Brady to go down the field, and make something happen. So
I was saying the whole game because you see Brady threw for over 500 yards.
Yeah.
It seemed like 75% of those yards just came on guys who were open by 10 yards.
oh yeah,
It was pretty ridiculous at one point. I was saying the whole game, I was like, the Eagles can win this game, but they have to make a play on defense. Like whether it's an interception or a sack that, kind of ruins a drive, they have to do something like that or else they're not going to win. And it took them about 58 minutes, but they finally got a sack. They, strip sack of Brady, they recover, and that was pretty much it. I mean, Brady had a chance with a Hail Mary at the end, but
yeah,
he cannot complete those, unlike some people.
yeah. Unlike another number 12. Yeah.
Well, that ball hung up there for a little bit. I mean, after it started being bounced around, it was in the air. I mean, if somebody was there, it was there for the grabbing.
And I think that play exposed the Patriots' biggest weakness, which is outside of Gronk. Who do you have that isn't a possession type receiver?
Well,
Brandon Cooks got knocked out. That was a great hit.
You know who was on the field for that play, and because I was watching the NFL Films highlights on Inside the NFL this morning, I could have swore after the play was over and they were showing the celebration start, Malcolm Butler was walking away, like from the end zone area. So I don't know whether Malcolm Butler was lined up.
I don't think he was
on that Hail Mary. Maybe not, but I'll have to double check it.
No, there's been pretty much controversy in the every day since the Super Bowl ended because Malcolm Butler got benched.
Yeah,
they suited him up and he didn't play a snap.
And that's what really stuns me because if you're not going to play him, why do you dress him? Isn't there another player? I mean, Kenny Britt didn't get activated for that game. I mean, if you're not going to play the guy, period. I mean, absolutely not going to make one. I mean, I guess he played one special team snap. I mean, if you're not going to play this guy whatsoever, why is he dressing and taking a roster spot away from somebody on the practice squad or whatever we call the inactive list that could have maybe done something? And I'll tell you, from what I've been hearing, the Patriots locker room is not too happy with Bill Belichick. This might be the start.
Oh, boy.
The first crack in the Patriots dynasty. Okay, this might be seriously because usually that locker room. I mean, they when Bill says jump, they say how high. I think this is the first time that you're going to see an actual revolt or I don't say mutiny, but just some type of there's some discontent in that locker room, and it's never been that way before since Belichick has taken over. I mean, that we know publicly. And that's where it's going to be interesting to see what's the hangover or the after effect of this Malcolm Butler, basically benching that, how is this going to, continue on into the regular season next year? It should be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend like I'm sitting back in a dark room watching film of all the Patriots games. So I'm just going off what I've read and what kind of people that cover the Patriots have been saying all year. But the gist that I've gotten is that really Malcolm Butler has not had a good season.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chris, like you said, it's like if you're gonna bench him and not play him at all, then don't waste the roster
Don't
spot.
activate him.
It's almost like I heard this said in one of the podcasts I listened to, but it's almost like Belichick was trying to make a point and punish him.
It's stupid.
And it's like, well,
you're
trying to win a championship.
Yeah.
So I dress the best 53 players and go try to win a game. Don't try to make a point.
And if you're going to discipline them, okay, don't start them. Keep them out in the first series, but then put them back in. I mean, to hold them out for basically the entire game, it's just ludicrous.
Well, and here's my thing about that is that no matter going into the Super Bowl, that was quite possibly his last game anyway with the Patriots. So why do that? If you have a bone to pick with this guy that, he's not the number one or number two cornerback you want in that position, but he's the guy who's taken 98% of the snaps all year, why would you decide to make your point in that moment, knowing full well that in all likelihood he's not going to be on your team in 2018, this is the last game that he's on your roster for. Not only do you have a say in that, but he has a say, and all the indications were that, he didn't want to come back, you didn't want him back. So why would you put in a guy who's untested, really, who's really his experience came in the practices leading up to the Super Bowl, and did okay in times, but did get beat on some key plays, including the Jeffrey touchdown. I don't know. To me, that was just one of many bad Bill Belichick decisions, either in that game or in the weeks leading up to it.
Well, one thing I don't want to hear is if you're a Patriots fan, you're like, oh, if Butler had played, the Patriots would have won. BS. The Eagles are going to win that game whether Butler was playing or not. I mean, they clearly outplayed the Patriots that game. But I don't think Butler would have had that much of a difference. Maybe a play or two here and there, but I mean, you can throw away. I mean, I was saying to Robert, I mean, like when the Jets had Darrelle Revis. I mean, basically teams did not throw at him; they went away from him. And if the Eagles felt that strongly about Butler, they could have went away from him. I don't think Butler is. I mean, he's a good player, but I mean, let's not make him out to be the second coming of a Hall of Famer or anything like that. I mean, I still think the Eagles win that game even if Butler plays.
No doubt.
So it seems appropriate that to conclude the 2017 NFL season, that the Super Bowl would have some controversial plays involved. With did he catch it? Did he not? Did he survive the ground? Your favorite term. So let's start with obviously the two plays as far as did he catch it? Did he not? Were the Corey Clement touchdown, where it's kind of right in the back of the end zone. Looked like he may or may not have bobbled it. Maybe he was just switching hands, still had possession. Basically, the decision was he got 2 feet in bounds and had possession before falling out. So let's start with that one. Did you guys, when you saw it live, did you think it was a touchdown? And then did you agree with ultimately what they came up with, that it was a touchdown?
Yes and yes. I thought that, I think one thing about control, there was no clear bobble to me. It seemed like he was in control the whole time and just moved it in his arm, which to me, yes, the ball is moving, but that shouldn't result in an incomplete pass. He was clearly in control the whole time, and got the feet in, and had possession, went to the ground. No Calvin Johnson shenanigans or Des Bryant or whatever. The ball didn't come out. He had control of it. Touchdown every time. Catch every time.
Again, I saw inside the NFL, they had a mic on Gene Sterntor, and they played what he said, looking at it on the video screen on the tablet, whatever you want to call it, and what he said to one of the other refs, and it's a catch. He said that it moved a little bit, but he still has control of it. Well, I think that's something that we've unfortunately the NFL has done now with this whole what's a catch thing, is that if the ball moves, if the ball is bobbled even the tiniest bit, even if the player comes down with it, it's like, oh, it's not a catch. To me, I mean, that guy had possession of it the whole time. He got both feet in. It's a catch. And I think the NFL, I thought it was going to be overturned, to be honest with you, but the NFL, I thought, made the right decision, and it stood up. So hopefully the Patriot fans aren't complaining about that one either, because they've taken advantage of some of those. Robert knows what I'm talking about.
You betcha.
Yes.
So we have that one. Then we have the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz catches the ball at around the 5-yard line, takes a few steps, dives for the end zone. The ball crosses the plane, and as he kind of hits the ground, the ball pops up. He still actually catches it after that before it hits the ground. But the NFL had to look at that. Basically, had to determine.
Well, they have to look at all scoring plays,
right? But they were going to review it anyway, whether that rule is in place.
That was the easiest one, because once he catches the ball and establishes himself as a runner,
that's the controversy is. There seems to be no consensus on, okay, when does a player become a runner now? That's where the controversy is.
Well, I always thought it was 2 steps. Once you got possession of the ball and you took 2 steps and you established possession in those 2 steps, you're clearly a runner. And that's what happened on this play. He clearly, once the ball crosses the plane, play's dead. That's it. It's a touchdown. So he crosses the plane with the ball, boom, touchdown, play over. Now the ball comes out after that, that's moot. Doesn't matter. It doesn't factor into it. And the fact that he recovered it anyways, I mean, but he'd already caught it. It's not like he was catching the ball and he's coming down and the ball pops out. No, then it's not a catch. But he's already caught it. He's already run 5 yards and he's already crossed the plane and then it comes out. No, it's a touchdown. That was the easiest one of them all, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I'll make 2 points. One is that, Collinsworth is in the booth running his mouth about this play. Ertz took 3 steps with the ball and then dove for the goal line. 3 steps with the ball. Had clear possession the whole way. Wasn't bobbling it or anything. Had possession, dives for the goal line, gets in. I mean, what are you thinking? We just don't know what a catch is anymore.
Well,
There's times when that certainly applies. Like, and I'll get to my second point in a second. But this was no doubt in my mind. This isn't one of those times when that applies. Now, he mentioned, the Jesse James catch, but they're 2 entirely different plays because Jesse James, when he caught that ball, it was an immediate, he caught it and then dove for the goal line, dove for the plane. Ertz was a catcher and then, had possession, was running towards the goal line. So different situations, do I think Jesse James should count as a catch too? Yeah, absolutely. But 2 different circumstances. This was clear. He caught it. He was running with it. Any comparison to the James catch is just not. It doesn't fit. They're not the same play.
Well, I'm glad that at least in this boardroom, we seem to know what a catch is. We'd be remiss to not talk about Nick Foles, the Super Bowl MVP.
Indeed.
Threw some touchdown passes, caught a touchdown pass, which was an awesome play.
Yeah.
I guess if you're the Eagles, obviously you have a franchise quarterback already.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle Nick Foles?
I think you hold on to him because you don't know whether. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I mean, Carson Wentz. I mean, he's recovering from a knee injury. You don't know how long it's going to take. If you've got Foles under contract and it's a very cap-friendly contract, you hold on to him. I mean, you can look. The trading deadline's not till October. If you really want to trade him that badly, you have until October to do it. Obviously his value is highest right now, but I think you hold on to him because I think it just shows that, like, hey, look. You lose your starting quarterback. For most teams, like the Dolphins, season's over. Now it's like, hey, we got Foles. If he's okay with being with Philly and he's getting paid decent money, keep him as your backup. It's good life insurance policy. It's a good insurance policy, basically. It paid off in spades for the Eagles. So I wouldn't be so quick to get rid of him. I'd hold on to him.
Yeah, but the only thing about that is he can command a pretty good payday. Super Bowl MVP.
Oh, when he becomes a free agent, that's different then.
So,
but not this year. I mean, Wentz, I think if it was a situation where Wentz isn't coming off a knee injury and you don't know how he's going to, what if he's not ready by training camp? What if what if the rehab, something happens, to me, there's no way you get rid of Foles until after the regular season starts and you know that Wentz is back and he's healthy. That's when you entertain the possibility of possibly trading him.
Sure. The other factor, though, is that, even though the Eagles are champions, they clearly have some flaws. I mean, you look at the defense, which played pretty good throughout the season, but that secondary is nowhere near where it should be, especially on the outside. And so they could, they could parlay Foles into a, either decent pick, player for player. I mean, it's one of those things that there's teams out there that would want a quarterback like Foles.
I think the Eagles if the Eagles are going to address those needs and defense, they're going to draft or maybe free agent. I mean, I don't see them trying to trade Foles for a cornerback or safety or someone.
Depends on what they can get in return.
Well, but who are you going to get? I mean, what top notch? Richard Sherman?
You could get.
Are you seriously? I know, and Foles isn't going to Seattle anyway.
He's a
when
dog
you got
corner.
Russell Wilson. But I'm just saying though. But what player? What defensive player?
I'm not saying it has to be a player necessarily. I'm saying that
draft picks.
You could get a high draft pick. How many teams out there need a quarterback these days?
Oh, the Bills. I mean, how about the Bills? What the Bills say?
The Bills don't need.
Bills want to package those 2 picks where they got 20 and 21.
Yeah.
What if the Eagles say, hey, we'll give you Foles, and we'll take 20 and 21, or maybe we'll just take 20 or 21 to move up a little bit.
We've ripped the Eagles off enough for one decade.
Okay. Yeah, you did, and of course those hand-me-downs have been
Yeah, I think there's too much of a history with these ACL injuries to know, even if Carson Wentz is practicing fully by training camp and he's cleared to play, that there's too much of a history of guys the first half of season after an ACL injury that they're not quite themselves. Even quarterbacks, like look at Brady's first season, 2009, after he tore his ACL in 2008. It was one of his worst seasons. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think if you're the Eagles and you want Carson Wentz to be your quarterback for the next decade and you have Nick Foles there, sure, you could deal him and try and improve your roster the most you can, but I'd rather just, for once, and this goes against Doug Peterson's mentality, but be a little conservative. Just hold on to the guy. Give Wentz an extra month, extra 8 weeks to really get healthy, be 110%, and don't miss a beat instead of risking it. By all accounts, Nick Foles really would be fine with coming back next year. So
yeah, well, I think another thing too that can't be ruled out is that he's seen what it's like in different systems, and it's not. I wouldn't define him as a system quarterback because he had success under Chip Kelly. He had a great season under Chip Kelly that one year. So, but it's not like he's been consistent throughout his career. I mean, look at even this season, down the stretch in the regular season, and even that first game against the Falcons. He played good against the Falcons, but he wasn't lighting it up like he did the last 2 games. And so, I think even he realizes that I'm not going to be playing like that. 16 games a year. I've had a couple good years. I had a good playoff run this time around, but that's not my norm. We've seen what his norm is, and he's a good quarterback, but will a team overpay for him? Because he's a Super Bowl MVP.
It's happened. You've seen.
Sure, yeah.
You see. Super Bowl, like Larry Brown of the Cowboys.
Oh yeah.
I mean, remember the Raiders gave him all that money?
Sure.
He bombed. I mean, there's too many. Like, you don't judge a person by just one game, okay? But I will say this: Foles played lights out in the playoffs. He actually had 3 amazing games. That being said, I remember that Monday night game against the Raiders, and the Eagles looked like a bunch of dogs. It was a dog game. I mean, neither team could really get much going on offense. So I don't know whether that's the aberration and the other games are the norm, or whether he just got caught fire. But he was. I mean, it's not like he was playing a bunch of slouches there. I mean, the Falcons went to the Super Bowl last year. Their defense isn't great, but still they went to the Super Bowl last year. The Vikings supposedly had the best defense in football when Philadelphia played them. And of course, like I said, the Patriots did not have a good running off defense. But they do have a good defense. I mean, they were one of the better defenses in the second half of the season. So,
especially in terms of scoring.
Well, and and here's the other thing, though. I think the most important thing that we seem to forget. The players, obviously, they have to go out there and execute. They have to make plays, but it's not like they're calling their own play. It's the coaches. The coaches know the players' strength. The coaches have the system. Let's take Nick Foles out of the Philly system and put him in another team with another system. Does he play as well? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. He might bomb in another system. And I think that's the thing that we really need to remember is, like, if you're Foles, like, hey, look, I'm going to be on a team where, the system suits my skills, and I can play well with that system. And I want to be in a team with that system. Why do I want to, go to a team where I don't fit in with their offensive system? It isn't suitable to my skills. I'm not going to do well. Does that make sense? I mean, I understand the money is one thing. You want a big payday, but ultimately you want to win football games. Is that good for your career when you're going to a place where the system doesn't fit you and you're not going to win? Like when he went to the Rams. I mean, Jeff Fisher.
The quarterback killer.
Where quarterbacks go to die. Their careers go to die. So I think that's something that we seem to forget is, like, just because a player excels in one system with one coach, one offensive coordinator, that necessarily he's going to go to another team that runs a completely different system or something else, and he's going to do just as well. I think we forget that you want to play with a team that suits your strengths.
Yeah, I think it is, as you guys alluded to. It's important to remember, think back to a month ago, and there's a reason why nobody picked the Eagles to make the Super Bowl is because of Nick Foles, because he looked so uneven to end the regular season. He's really the reason that the Eagles became the dogs of this season, wearing the masks and all that. It's because people didn't trust him.
Right.
He was a big question mark, and he stepped up. He was damn good in his last 2 games. He was, I'd say, he didn't throw a touchdown pass, but he was okay against the Falcons. But he got the job done. So, yeah, we'll see where his future takes him. Any more thoughts on the Super Bowl before we move on?
Oh, I'm good.
I'm all good.
So, yeah, we'll move on from the Super Bowl, but we will not move on from the New England Patriots.
Bum, bum, bum.
So,
Not a good sound effect. Work on it.
You got one queued up there?
No, I don't have one queued up. I limit it to one sound effect per podcast, so I've already done it. So
Okay.
So as the Patriots were preparing for their run to the Super Bowl, they had a bye week, the first week of the playoffs, and that's kind of a time when these assistant coaches, coordinators for playoff teams get a chance to interview for all these jobs around the league, and that's what the 2 Patriots coordinators did. Matt Patricia was selected as the Detroit Lions head coach, and Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, was selected as the Indianapolis Colts head coach. The thing with that is teams cannot officially announce it. They cannot officially make the hire until their team is done.
Right.
So the Colts and the Lions had to wait for the Super Bowl to end before they could kind of arrange the press conference and kind of officially announce everything. So, yeah, Matt Patricia's gone. I'm sure Patriots fans are pretty happy about that, judging by the high note that he left that defense. Josh McDaniels, after accepting the job, backed out of the Colts job and said, you know what? I'm going to stay at my cushy position with the Patriots.
with a pay raise.
So I think there are layers to this, but first off, if you're the Colts and they had their press conference today, their GM was not happy with what went down. If you're the Colts, where do you go from here? Because now you're looking for a head coach.
Yeah, the thing is that there are other options out there. They have some pretty good options. I know that there was a report that maybe Leslie Frazier, the current Bills defensive coordinator, might be an option. Frank Reich has been mentioned.
That's the guy that I would hire. Absolutely.
Another offensive mind who similar to McDaniels and whose team actually won the Super Bowl this year.
Dan Campbell.
So there's a long list of them. Mike Vrabel was mentioned. He was actually linked to the Detroit job, but then they went with Patricia. I don't know if he
Vrabel's in Houston.
Right.
He took the Houston job, right? Or did he take the Tennessee job?
Tennessee.
I don't think he left.
I thought he took didn't he take the Tennessee job?
I'm pretty sure he's coaching the Titans.
Titans.
Well,
yeah.
But he was linked to that job. So, there are options. There's good assistance to be had, but I think the big problem for them is that they're behind the 8 ball now, because they thought they had their guy, and they thought they had their guy for weeks, and then things happen over the course of a 48-hour period, and all of a sudden they don't have their guy. And I don't blame them for feeling pretty burned about that. McDaniels clearly made it seem like he was interested in that job and wanted it, and wanted to make the move. And obviously a great hire for them if he would have taken the job, and then he decides not to. And so now, they kind of have to go back, and it's probably tough for them to go back to some of the finalists and be like, yeah, we passed you over, but.
Yeah, but I think
still
those finalists are not going to care that, because to me it's still there's only 32 of those jobs. If you were a finalist for the Colts job and they said nope, we're going to go with McDaniel, I don't think their feelings are too hurt that they're going to be like the second choice. They're going to say, hey, you know something? Here's my opportunity. I'm going to make the best of it. Things happen for a reason. That's what I'm going to do. Who I feel bad for is the assistant coaches that he had hired These guys have signed contracts. They're employed now by the Indianapolis Colts. That's the part that, to me, is the worst part of all this. It's one thing if you turn down a job, someone offers you a job and you say, yeah, I'm going to take it, and then at the last minute you have second thoughts and you change your mind, you decide not to go. But when you're bringing other people with you, then that opens up a whole other can of worms, and that's where what McDaniel did is despicable. That's really the worst part of this. If he hadn't hired anybody to be any of his assistants, it was just like, yep, I'm going to be the coach, and then when I'm officially the coach, then I start hiring my staff, then it's okay for him to say, thanks, but no thanks. But when you've agreed in terms and then you actually start hiring other coaches, and these coaches who have families too, because that was one of the things, McDaniel's got a family and he doesn't want to uproot them from New England. Well, how about these assistants that are going to be uprooting their families now? Okay, what about them? They're the ones that get the ultimate, I don't want to say the shaft, but they're the ones who really are going to be like the victims, the real victims in all of this. Okay? And I feel bad for them, but McDaniel, it's going to be interesting to see. A lot of people are like, McDaniel will never get another head coaching job ever again unless it's New England. I disagree with that. I really think that these things get blown out of proportion sometimes.
Look at Billy Donovan.
And eventually, if McDaniel comes back to New England and he does an amazing job again, someone else is going to say, well, I'll take it. Like Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells was going to be the coach of the Buccaneers in 1991. It was a done deal. And at the last minute, he backed away and turned it down and left. A couple years later, he goes to New England. Then he goes to the Jets. Then he goes to the Cowboys. These things happen all the time. I think the assistant coaches thing is the one thing, though, that's going to stand out. That's going to, some people are going to hold that against him. But as for he changed his mind, I don't think that's going to really hurt him down the road.
I think, and I guess we'll kind of switch to the McDaniels side of things now. I think you bring up Bill Parcells. The issue I would have with that comparison is, Bill Parcells was a two-time Super Bowl champion as a head coach. Josh McDaniels, he's been a great offensive coordinator, but when he went and left for Denver for 2 years, that was a dumpster fire.
Oh, I know.
I don't think especially now,
yeah.
But I don't think Josh McDaniels has nearly the respect or whatever around the league as Bill Parcells or maybe some of these other coaches.
No, I agree. You're right.
It's funny because you almost could compare it to what Bill Belichick did.
Yeah, but that was a little bit different though, because with Belichick, what the plan was is that he was just going to take over for Parcells. That the assistant coaches were already there. There wasn't really going to be a lot of turnover. Really, all they were going to have to do is just hire a new defensive coordinator. All the assistant coaches, the coordinators, everything else was going to stay the same. It was just like Belichick gets promoted, we replace his position, and we move on. This is obviously a lot different. It's just, and plus, don't forget, Belichick had signed a contract too. The contract was that he was going to be the head coach in waiting. So he was property of the Jets. So, and the Jets were upset, and they got compensation from the Patriots for going to New England. This is something completely different because obviously McDaniels never signed anything, so there was no contract or anything. So
what do you guys think changed his mind over the last 3 weeks or so? Do you think? Obviously the Colts, they still have big questions mark with Andrew Luck. There's reports coming out that he might need additional surgery for his shoulder, and he might miss more time. So you have to imagine that played at least part into the decision. McDaniel says it's because he doesn't want to uproot his family. I saw one conspiracy out there that Bob Kraft told him to do this just to get revenge on the Colts for Deflategate.
I don't think it's that.
Or, and this is a little bit out of left field, have the Patriots already told Josh McDaniels that he is definitely the coach in waiting
I think
for Bill Belichick?
That's probably the strongest thing right there. I think that's the major reason. And the only thing is, though, we've got the whole thing with the Rooney Rule. In the old days, you could do that. You could say, all right, Jimmy Johnson's the Dolphins coach, and when he retires, Dave Wanstead's going to take over. And you can have the coach in waiting, But you can't do that really anymore because you got the Rooney Rule. So what are the Patriots going to do? They want McDaniels.
Same thing the Oakland Raiders
Right,
did.
it's going to be a sham.
sham
the Rooney
process.
Rule. The Rooney Rule is a joke. Like the NFL's understand like where their heart was at by making that rule, but nobody takes it seriously.
I think the exception to the Rooney Rule should be is if you are promoting someone from your own staff to the head coaching job, where your coach leaves, either gets fired or he retires or some other reason, and you want to promote somebody who's already on your staff, who you're familiar with. I think that should be the exception to the Rooney Rule. That you can say, yep, this guy, we're familiar with him, we've dealt with him, we know him, so we want to make him the head coach automatically, not have to go through a process of hiring somebody where we have to satisfy the Rooney Rule. I think that should be the only exception to the Rooney Rule. I think when you're looking outside your building and you're having open interviews, yes, you should absolutely have to interview minority candidates. That's the right thing to do, and I think that's what the spirit of the Rooney Rule is. But I think when you have a situation where you want to promote somebody from within, you got to go through this sham, and it's really sad because if you're the person doing the interview, if you're the candidate and you're interviewing, it's like I know I don't have a chance for this job. Why am I doing this? To get interview experience? I mean, that's kind of stupid. So I think if the Patriots want to do this, and that's the plan, whether it's after this next season or 2 years down the road or whenever, just say it, and then go to the NFL and say like, look, if you want us to go through this sham, we'll go through it. But this is what we want to do, and this is why we're doing it. And we feel that maybe we pick a minority to be the defensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator, replace McDaniel. That we're going to do something to show that like, look, we do care about minorities coaching in the NFL, so we'll do something. I mean, the Patriots have had minority coordinators. Romeo Crennel was their defensive coordinator for many years under Belichick. So it's not like the Patriots are trying to like play fast and loose with the rules. I think that they legitimately want to hire who they think is the best person for the job. It just happens that person's white right now. So
wild. Yeah, I mean, I think I think there was some sort of wink wink nod nod agreement here that because one of the things that struck me in some of the reports, which seemed to be contradictory, would be that if Belichick said that he was leaving, there's no way McDaniels would take that job. Why wouldn't he take that job? If Belichick's leaving, before the 2019 season, say 2018 is his last year, which, he said that he's coaching this year, but who knows beyond that. Why wouldn't he stick around? Tom Brady's saying that he's playing until he's 45. Well, Tom Brady's 40 right now.
He ain't playing until he's 45.
But
I know what you're saying.
But you have to follow the path here. So Brady says he's going to play for that many seasons. You've got Tom Brady. You're an offensive minded coach. It's where you want to be. One of the rationales given for McDaniels to stay there was that Foxborough is his home. Like that's where his family is. He doesn't want to uproot his family. So why wouldn't he take that job? It'd be ridiculous. He can go right into it. He knows the ownership. Knows the front office. Knows the players. I mean, come on. It's stupid to suggest any otherwise. That if Belichick leaves, he wouldn't want that job. It's to me, especially now, his best head coaching opportunity. Because going forward, will there be interest? Sure, but I mentioned Billy Donovan earlier. Yeah. And he was coming college basketball coach at the time. Florida Gators. He had these good runs with the Gators, and it was the Magic. The Magic were gonna hire him. Then he backed out on it, similar to McDaniels. And the thought was at the time, Donovan, is radioactive. He's not going to get a pro job ever. Well, he did down the line, but it took a few years.
Yeah. No, that's the thing.
And he had to go back, and he had to go back and win some games and win a championship and show that I'm still a good candidate for this, but that just wasn't the opportunity. With McDaniels, I think the NFL being what it is, there's some teams that'll stick with them and they won't want to touch him, but there's other teams that'll still go after him down the line. But the Patriots, that's the best opportunity for him. He knows that's where he wants to be. That's where most of his career has been spent. I think to suggest otherwise that, even if there's not a head coach in waiting type agreement, but even if he's kind of viewed as the guy to take over for Belichick down the line, to suggest that he wouldn't take that position is just silly to me. I laughed when I saw that last night.
Yeah, and I think this applies to players as well. Guys coming into the draft who want to have more control over where their destination is, because ultimately it is their life. And if you're going to work somewhere where you're happy. If he really feels he's not going to be happy in Indianapolis and that's not the best place for him, fine. But I think stuff like this is why people hate the Patriots. I don't think it's just because they win. Because you look at other kind of dynasties around any sport. People didn't hate the Chicago Bulls, and they won more than the Patriots.
Yeah.
People don't hate the Golden State Warriors. People don't hate the Pittsburgh Penguins, unless you're from Philadelphia.
Right.
But it's this extra BS that always seems to be around the Patriots that it really drives you nuts.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I'll tell you this: if Gronkowski decides to retire,
that's another thing that we didn't talk about.
That will change. I mean, seriously, that is Brady's security blanket. Okay, I mean, it's no coincidence when he only had one catch in the first half, and then the first drive of the second half, they targeted him, especially at 4 catches, and he caught a touchdown. I mean, that is Brady's number one receiver right there. And if he decides to retire, and I wouldn't blame the guy, he just had a concussion. He's always getting banged up. He's always got injuries. I mean, I think he can make some money not playing football, being a,
Pro wrestler.
Well, yeah, that's one thing. But, I mean, talk about maybe going in the movies or something. I mean, I heard he's talked to The Rock about, like, hey, making the transition from being an athlete to an actor.
Can Gronk say more than 5 words?
I mean, can he act? I mean, so you can make good money and not get banged up like that. So if the Patriots lose Gronkowski, I mean, that is really, to me, the biggest loss, because it really changes how they do things on offense. And, we're still talking about a 40 who's going to be a 41-year-old quarterback, and I can't help it. I know Brady played a great game last week or this Sunday, but he's 41. Things can change very quickly when you're that age. One play, one hit, it can all change that easily. And I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to make a bold declaration. The Patriots will not go back to the Super Bowl next season. They will not repeat as AFC champions. And I think this is their last Super Bowl with the Brady-Belichick combination. That is my hunch. I see a defense that did not play well in the big game. Brady's older. They may lose Gronkowski. I really think this is it. This was the last run for them. And I don't think they're going to repeat next year as AFC champs. I think Jacksonville, I think Pittsburgh, or maybe, who knows, maybe Kansas City. Maybe Mahomes lights it up and is like Carson Wentz. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I'm going to say it right now: the Patriots will not go to the Super Bowl next year. Book it.
Chris, I agree with you. I think that this is, it's going to happen eventually, because as they always say, Father Time is undefeated. Tom Brady is one of these years, he's not going to be the same guy. I think you look at how he played the second half of this season, he didn't play well. He played great in the playoffs, but the second half of the regular season, he did not play well. One of these days, he's going to show up to training camp, and he's not going to be Tom Brady. He's going to be a shell of himself, and maybe that happens next year. We'll see, but I think the light, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel with this Patriots run, which I'm sure both of you are very excited about.
It's been 16 years. I mean, they won their first Super Bowl in 2002, so it's been 16 years. That is, it's the longest run of any, I think, major professional team with just one coach and one quarterback in NFL history. I don't think there's any other team that you can say had that kind of run of success. Now, they went 10 years between Super Bowl titles and everything with those 2 losses to the Giants mixed in, but they basically have won the AFC East almost every year since 2002, where they've made the postseason just about every year. No other team can say that. And what they've done is extraordinary, and I tip my cap to them. There's a lot of respect for what they've done, but it's going to end. And I say that this was the end, that they're not going back to the Super Bowl with Brady and Belichick. That's it.
Fascinating takes.
I just want to hear more about the Fast and the Furious sequel starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Rob Gronkowski.
The Rock and Gronk connection.
The Gronk and the Furious.
Maybe Gronk will make an appearance on the lead single from the soundtrack with Wiz Khalifa and Future or something like that.
Oh,
All
man.
right. Well, guys, I'm not going to say we're going to totally go away, but obviously we don't have any more football games to talk about for a while.
That's right.
Um,
We'll have the draft to talk about in a couple months.
Well, we got free agency.
Free agency in the draft, but
So who knows? Who knows? Maybe another bombshell drops in the next couple weeks.
I don't think it's a stretch to say that this is not going to be a weekly thing for
No.
probably the next few months. So, guys, I just want to say great season 1 of the Citizen NFL podcast.
Indeed.
We made it without cancellation. Made it without one of our bosses barging in here and saying cut the crap.
It's been an honor to chat with you guys. It really has been a lot of fun.
One of the best season ones. Better than season 1 of The Apprentice. I can assure you of that.
You're fired.
All right, I think we'll wrap it up there. Like you guys said, I'm sure we'll come back for free agency because that's always a fun time. There's plenty of draft stuff to talk about.
Don't leave, Juice. Don't leave. Landry. Don't leave, Jarvis.
We'll see what happens. We'll have a special Jarvis Landry departure podcast if need be.
I'll bring some handkerchiefs for the tears.
All right,
I'll bring funeral music.
we'll wrap it up there. This has been another edition of the Citizen NFL podcast. Robert Harding and Chris Sciria. This is Justin Ritzel signing off. Until next time.